Good morning. It's Thursday. I'm in my work clothes. Just happened to have a nice enough shirt to put on. I was heading to work, and because of the rain, it was like, oh, way too much trouble to work today. So the lady said, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish up tomorrow and next week. So all is well. And so today, more advice from Peter. This was a tougher day. You see, Peter, a lot of people, he was more personable than Paul was. And even Peter said that Paul was difficult. So we understand that. And I'm sorry, it's a little hollow in here. I do have, Joy just got me some new microphone and stuff like that, but wouldn't you know, I forgot it. So there's a problem. And that is society. When it comes to our society compared to the society back then. We're going to talk about a very controversial scripture today in the advice of Peter. 1 Peter chapter 3. Does anybody have their coffee handy? Take a moment. I am. Because life has been such a rush to have all of a sudden have a day, and it's a really rainy day, so we're going to go look and see if everything's flooded, which we needed a good flood and rain, but not a bad flood. So the thing is, we have to talk about Peter's advice when it says, wives, submit to your husbands. Now, this is controversial because people don't understand the society of the time, and they don't understand the definition of the word. Now, if you look up the word that Peter used in the Greek, which I did, and as a matter of fact, I'm kind of doing you know me, I remember I used to do an hour, and I'd really break things down and go after it. Well, I did get caught up in that a little bit this time on the last verse that we're dealing with today. But I want to make sure that you have a complete understanding before we get started that this is not about prejudice, or this is not about male domination. This is not about who's in control and who has value and who doesn't and all of that. We must remember that in the time of this society, women and young children were considered possessions. They were not considered valuable the way they are today. Peter is speaking from the point of his society and the way things were back then. But here's the good news. When I'm looking it up in the Greek, okay, let me get this turned around here. The word, wives, be submissive to your husbands. It actually, in the Greek, there are, many places that the word submissive is used in the Bible. Many of them mean many different kind of things. Because there is total submission. There is submission, like for us these days, submission when you go to work. When you clock in, you have submitted your life to that job to give your time and your life in trade for money at that job. Right? I mean, you've submitted to that job. I'm trying to think of another example before I get to the best one. It's even, whether it's a taxi or an Uber or an airport limousine, you're submitting to that driver and his direction. And bus drivers, people in control like that, when you get in that car, you are submitting. All right. So now there is the submission of someone completely in charge, and that's not this submission. This submission, and this is, try to get this, when Peter's talking about wives submit to your husbands. Back in his society, the wife was part of a dowry. It was part of a contract, and it was a part of. I want to give you the best example: the military. When I decided as a young man that I was going to join the military, I was also saying to myself, I am submitting to their control and their contract voluntarily to gain something that I want. Now, what in these days did a woman want? She wanted protection, she wanted care, she wanted food, she wanted children, she wanted what society said was basically her value as a woman, was to produce an heir, to take care of a home, to be, and I'm sure in closed chambers and outside of the realm of people and society, life was probably a lot like it is today between a husband and wife. But back then, a lot of times the woman involved had a father that had to pay. There was, like nowadays, the wife of the woman's father pays for the wedding, and back then, the woman's father there's a dowry paid, and so it's more of a contractor. I don't want you to think of this in our terms of submission. This is submission like the military. I submitted myself to the military. When I got to boot camp and they shaved my head and started working me out and yelling at me, there was no, oh, I don't want to do this. No, I submitted myself to this. I had a goal. I wanted to save lives. I want to be part of the Coast Guard. I wanted to be, I wanted to be part of something bigger than me. Now, with that attitude and understanding that kind of submission, now, I did have time of my own. I did have liberty. I had leave. I had, days off. There were times when there was 2 or 3 hard weeks, of complete, hard work and all that. But there were other times where it was easy. So it's a lot like the military, what we're talking about here when it says, wives, submit, because it says in the Greek, this submission is more like a contract, not get down on your knees and worship me. All right, so the number in the Greek is 5293, and that's what it's talking about. This is not the submission like that. This is, now I was I still could be thrown in, there was still the what do you call that, UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice. It wasn't like I was free to do anything I wanted. I could get in trouble, I could be, put on report, I could be put in prison. This is a complete world in the military. So when a woman back then submitted, she was in a contract. This was her goal, was to have that family, to have that protection, to have children, to fulfill her need. And when a man would say, this is the one I want, this is the woman I want to marry, it was more like he was also doing a contract with her father and a contract of this situation, so that it wasn't just, oh, I love you and you love me, let's get married. No, this was more like the military. I have a goal. I want children. I want this. I am willing to submit to this husband, to this man, to this household, to these rules, and join it like you would join the military under contract and submit to this situation. And yes, it does say fear and trembling, but it says this is not a fear and trembling of, it says with no fear and trembling, with no fear and terror. So please understand, we're not talking, women's rights here or anything else like that. We're talking contract. So verse 1 of chapter 3, with that example, wives, submit to your husbands, that you have some, even if some do not obey the word, they will without a word may be won by the conduct of their wife. So that was one of the points of having this woman, was she would, as a Christian woman, be under contract. She would affect that household for Christ. Also, I just went out of my head what I was going to say. This submissiveness is towards their husband, not everybody's husband, not the neighbor's husband, not the other man in the church or anywhere else like that. This doesn't mean that she just has to submit to all men, just her husband. When I remember what I was going to say, I'll come back to that. Oh yeah, because it says submit to your own husband. Not everybody's husband, your own husband. This is that. Don't feel like there was some kind of submissive to all men kind of society. It's actually saying you're just the husband. All right. Because when they observe your chaste conduct and accompanied by the fear of the Lord, do not let your adornment be merely outward, arranging of the hair, wearing of gold, putting on fine apparel. Obviously, she is in a contract with a rich man. Okay, so Peter's talking about a woman who's being taken care of here. She's getting to do her hair. She's getting to, wear good clothes. It's not like she's in slave labor here. But let it be the hidden person of the heart with incorruptible beauty and a gentle and quiet spirit, which is very precious in the sight of the Lord. For in this manner, in a former times, a holy woman of God who trusted in God also adorned themselves, being submissive to their own husbands, as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, those whose daughters you are. Okay, so they're daughters of Abraham. He's not talking to all women. He's not talking to, he's talking to Christian women entering marriage. So this is not about rights. This is not about trying to do something for everybody. This is about a contract. And the reason I stopped right there is because of the next word. Very interesting word here. If you do good and are not afraid with any terror. Well, I looked up the word, the afraid and terror and all of that, and it basically just said afraid, terror. So what we're saying here is that when a woman is submitted, when she is gentle of spirit, when she is doing all of these things, she has no reason to fear or be in terror of her husband. Because this is God's promise right here. If you do good, you are not afraid with any terror. If you do good. So it's basically saying, hey, when you get married, a Christian woman, back here in 81, you're under contract, you've submitted yourself to this household and family, and therefore do good. Be kind and gentle spirit. My wife, when I first met her, she had the sweetest voice. She was the softest heart. And, but in the last few years, she's lost that. And I can't complain because she said, well, you don't hear me. Oh, and I thought, oh man, it's my fault that she has to talk loud and be strong because I'm stubborn and I'm hard of hearing. Tough being a stubborn, but hard of hearing too. Oh no. So now it has a word for the husband. All right, so boys, lock and load, here you go, you're about to get it. It says, likewise, husbands, dwell with them with understanding, giving honor to the wife as to the weaker vessel, and as heirs together of the grace of life. heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers may not be hindered. What? So you see, Christian men, if you don't treat your wife right, your prayers are being hindered. Like I say, that scripture about no weapon formed against me shall prosper, if you're a Christian and you've become a weapon against someone, your employee, your child, your family, someone in your family where you want to, they don't want to stop them from succeeding or doing well, and they're praying, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. If you're not prospering right now, you better think, am I a weapon? Am I a weapon that's not prospering because I'm attacking someone or doing something underhanded? Or just be careful of that. So this is saying, men, you need to be understanding and giving honor so that your prayers will not be hindered. Doesn't say they won't come to pass, but this will slow it down and hinder your prayers. And you don't need that with everything going on. You need your prayers to get through. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? So do we have an understanding here of Old Testament contracts of marriage and submitting yourself? Even today, when a woman gets married, she is submitting to the family. Even, it's so bad that I don't even want to submit to someone else's last name anymore. But then that doesn't allow God to work the covenant the way he wants to work it, as far as the two become one flesh. So, it isn't chauvinistic. It isn't, male dominated. It's God dominated. And if you look at it as far as this is the way God does it, then you're not offended with men, as long as they are honoring you and loving you, and if their prayers are being hindered, then that's something that needs to be dealt with. Hey, sweetheart, maybe you're not getting the answer to prayer because of how you're treating the kids, how you're treating me, you don't realize how rough you're being, things like that, because I don't even realize, how rough I can be, especially when I get hungry. All right, so now I did promise you that towards the end of this, I was going to take my time and do a little study like I used to do. Now, the only reason I'm doing this is because I came across something very interesting. So it says, finally, my brethren. So he is talking to us, to Christians. I want you to be of one mind. Remember I did that study last year about the mind of the world, our mind. Go back and look at that. Be of one mind, having compassion for one another. Love as brothers. Be tenderhearted. Be courteous. And not returning evil for evil, or reviling for reviling, but on the contrary, be a blessing, knowing that you were called to this, that you might inherit a blessing. Would he tell this to people that weren't doing this? Here, I'm telling you, as Christians, we revile. As Christians, we return evil for evil. If that wasn't possible as a Christian, he wouldn't be telling them to stop doing it, to warn them. He's warning them because it's happening. It's come up into his attention that people are evil for evil and being contrary. So he's saying, not returning evil for evil. So here's what, so then Peter says a refrain that is not his words, but ones that he copied. He who would love life and see good days, let him refrain his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking deceit. Let him turn away from evil and do good. Let him seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous. His ears are open to their prayers, and the face of the Lord, is against those who do evil. here's where I had to get into a little study. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I like these 30-minute things. It's wonderful. But I just happened to notice it said eyes, ears, and face. And each one of these are an aspect of God's. Wow. Eyes, ears, and face. So it says here, seek the peace and pursue it. For the eyes, which is 3788 of the Lord, are on the righteous. And isn't it interesting that the basic definition of the eyes of the Lord, these eyes are the index of the soul. What a description. What a description. Everybody knows what an index is. You know, index cards, you know, library cards, index cards, the index at the back of the book. What is the index at the back of the book? You know, it is the definitions. It is the way it was set up. It is the description. And so when he says the eyes of the Lord, the eyes are the index. You can look in someone's eyes and see what they're feeling. You can look in their eyes and know they're angry, they're upset. It is an index for what's going on inside them. Isn't that something? And it says, it says looks after. So the first thing it says, the eyes of the Lord, the eyes that you can look into that tell you what you're thinking are also the eyes of the Lord. Here means that look after you. So in the Greek it says the eyes of the Lord that look after you are on the righteous. So when you're righteous, God's looking after you. Then it says the ears. The ears are 3775 in the Greek index. And what those are is ears that will hear. My wife can tell you about ears that won't hear. And there are people that have ears that won't hear. You know, it's understandable that there are many types of ears, and they're making sure that you understand the spelling and the understanding of the ears here are ears that will hear. And then it says, these ears are open to their prayers. The prayers that, because you honor your wife, your prayers aren't hindered. And the prayers of the wife, that her husband be saved, because obviously women catch on to Jesus a lot faster, and this is when they first got started, you know. So they're being charged by Peter to enter into these households and bring Christ. They're in contract, and they're going to bring it. And it says, but the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. And the face of the Lord was a couple of columns in the Greek lexicon, 4385, which means turns toward to watch. Okay, how many little kids are like, Mommy, watch, but Mom is over here on her phone, you know. You can tell when you're a child that the face, you want the face of your mother facing you to know that you have her attention. You know, I've seen little kids come up and put their fingers right here to say, Daddy, look, you know. Because they understand the basic shape of what the face means. I have your attention. I have your attention. So the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. And this means turned. Okay, turned toward, turned away, or to watch. So this could mean the face of the Lord is against those who evil, or the face, the face or the is turned towards to watch against those who do evil. So God is watching the evil. Now, it also could mean, you know, turned away. You know, those who do evil, God's face is not turned towards you. You know, he's turned away. So, wow, you know, eyes, ears, face. He's really serious about this, talking about these aspects of God. And let me see if that's down here. That says 12a. I wonder if I can see 12a. Here we go. That's Psalm 34, 12 through 16. Let's read it again. He who would love life and see good days. Wow. Hey, anybody that wants to love life and see good days? Anybody want to see love life and see good days? I mean, wow. This is Peter giving advice from Psalms. Hey, if you want to love your life and see good days, let him refrain his tongue from evil, his lips from speaking deceit. Let him turn away from evil and do good. Let him seek peace and pursue it. Simple advice. Peter's using the Psalms to give advice. You know, hey, they use scripture too. Well, you know, we're not the only ones that have our little books that we teach out of. Awesome, isn't it? He who would love life and see good days. That's great advice. That's great advice. So we'll end it there. Oh my. Well, have a wonderful day. Blessing you, praying for you. Thank God for the rain. May bless those who have been getting the hurricanes and all the other things going on, and the spin-offs and all that everyone is safe, and the storm, you know, hits in the least amount of damage, and it's amazing. The prayers of the saints and the churches are dissipating storms left and right these days, and you're seeing it. I love you much. Have a good day. One more sip together. Good morning, good morning, good morning.